Yeah, I've been interested in the Kennedy stuff for years now, and I read a really great book earlier this year that I think a lot of people know called The Devil's Chessboard by David Talbot, which is about the
Yeah.
nefarious Dulles brothers and whatnot. And I won't go into those the details. I'm sure Matt is more than familiar with that. But I thought there was one really fascinating passage that I don't think many people know at all, and maybe I'm sure Matt does.
He's holding it up right now. It's in his hand.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny, it's a great book all about Cold War, the early 60s, that period. I mean, it's a fantastic book, you know. So
Nice.
I recommend it for everyone to read. But okay, check out. So I've got my own copy here. I'm going to read out this one paragraph because I think it's an amazing paragraph that I never even knew about until I read this book. So 2 weeks before Kennedy was in Dallas, November. So Kennedy was assassinated, of course, mid to late November. Early November, he goes to Chicago. And it says here in the book that after Kennedy landed at Chicago's O'Hare Airport, Kennedy was scheduled to ride in a motorcade to Soldier Field for the annual Army-Navy football game. But the motorcade was canceled after the Secret Service exposed a plot to ambush the president from a tall warehouse building as his limousine slowed for a hairpin turn. The plot, which involved a sniper team composed of a disgruntled ex-Marine who worked in the building and at least 2 Cuban marksmen, bore a disturbing resemblance to the series of events that would claim Kennedy's life 20 days later in Dallas. Isn't that amazing? So they actually found a prior plot that is exactly like a copy of what happened in Dallas.
And did they find the people?
Later.
Like, did they actually apprehend people?
Yeah, that's it. The guy's name was Sierra. Was the guy who they found there, and so it goes into detail. It's all in this book. And I was just wondering how Matt feels. Does that figure into the conspiracy, or what do you think about this part of it?
Yes, I do. That's you're advanced, so good job. I am going to cover this this season. I'm going to cover the prior plots. There's another one in Tampa with a guy named Policarpo Lopez, and then you got Thomas Valley is the ex-Marine that you're referring to in Chicago. And yeah, there was a whole separate plot that with these Cubans, all these Cubans had all these rifles, and they were found at this apartment, and this lady told the police. This cop, Abraham Bolden, was involved somehow. I forget. It's been a while since I've looked at that, but I'm going to get to that, like I said, later this season. But yeah, they foiled the plot, and they had another patsy ready to go. It was wild.
And whatever happened to that guy in Chicago?
The actual shooters that they found got away. The Cuban guys got away.
Yeah. What about the American guy though?
Nothing happened.
In the book, Talbot talks about how basically the FBI screwed up, the Secret Service screwed up, and they just basically escaped into the ether, and they never heard of again.
Right.
You know, it was very, very mysterious. You know.
Yeah. So, because I don't know about if it was way different back then, but the FBI and the Secret Service that you think of now is probably unlikely to just be whoops, we don't know what happened to him. I'm obviously that stuff does happen, but they knew that he was trying to assassinate the president.
They actually were tipped off about this, and guess what the name was of the guy that tipped them off? Lee. No last name. Just Lee.
So a guy named Lee tipped them off in Chicago and they located the actual people involved who then just slipped away.
Yeah. So and let me just zoom out here. Okay. You want to get crazy? We're getting wild. Let's get it. Let's get in there. Let's do it. All right. So I'm going to shout out a podcast about the JFK assassination that's not my podcast. So there's two really good ones that are just focused on JFK assassination. Well, there's a lot. I don't want to say there's two, but there's one called Who Killed JFK? It's Rob Reiner and Soledad O'Brien, believe it or not. Okay. And they're doing a really good job. And one of the things they covered,
Rob Reiner's a big guy in the JFK.
Yeah, no, he's a big actor. Yeah, and I get a chance to interview him for my podcast as well. Not actor, he's a director.
But he's big into the JFK stuff. like for a long time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah.
and he has been for a long time. He's just doing 10 episodes. And so he's covering the whole thing, big picture. It's very well produced, but it doesn't have, like I was saying, there's no counterpoints presented as to actually here's the evidence against Oswald, right? So what I'm doing, I don't think it is competing with what I'm doing because it's big general appeal, of course. And then it's also like if you want to spend 10 episodes, if you want to zoom into the contested details with a footnotes and transcript, that's where I come in. Um, but anyway, in this podcast, I want to say it's one of the more recent episodes. They go in depth on this guy Richard Case Nagel or Nagel. I'm not sure the right way to pronounce it. But long story short, this guy's a double agent who goes over on behalf of the Americans to defect to the Soviet Union falsely, like so that he can get them to have him be a Soviet agent, but the whole time he's really an American agent, right? So
Yeah.
truly a double agent. He finds out that there's a plot to kill Kennedy from the Russians. This is what he says, okay? Finds out there's a plot to kill Kennedy from the Russians, and they say that a guy named Lee Harvey Oswald is going to do it, or he's going to be, it's going to look like he did it. And they wanted Richard Case Nagel to kill Oswald. So Nagel tried to warn him. Oswald didn't listen. And then he didn't want to kill Oswald, so he went into a bank in El Paso and shot 4 shots in the ceiling. And they arrested him, and he immediately asked for an FBI agent to speak to him and whatever, told him his whole story. The inventory of his car backs up his story. He had Oswald's ID on him in his car. He's arrested in August and says all this stuff that there's going to be an assassination and Oswald's going to do it in August. Yes, 1963, like right before it happened.
And what happened to him?
So what happened is he had some attempts on his life. Things ended up kind of like he was in jail for a while for the whole shooting into the ceiling. He kind of laid low, and then he got a subpoena from the Assassination Records Review Board in like 1994, 95. And the day that he got the subpoena requiring him to come in and testify, he was found dead. He had always told his son that if he ever died, there was a Foot Locker that he wanted him to open when he died that had all of his like most secret stuff, and wait till he died. And as soon as the son found out that his father had died, he went to the storage unit to try to find the Foot Locker, and it had been broken into, and the only thing missing was the Foot Locker.
Fuck off. What? How did they? I mean, damn. I mean, they're probably watching this right now.
Yeah.
So like,
but there's counterpoints to that. The counterpoint is, the FBI wrote a report that says, nah, he didn't say that. And yeah, it's weird that he had Oswald's ID, and it's weird that he had Fair Play for Cuba stuff in his car. But what are you going to do? There's coincidences sometimes. Move on. The story's far-fetched. Don't believe it.
Is that a counterpoint though for the FBI to be like, hey, weird stuff happens, but we're the FBI?
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah. The counter truly on Richard. Well, to be honest with you, since I haven't covered that in an episode yet, I have not dug deep enough for the counterpoints, but there always are counterpoints to every point. I guarantee it.
Yeah.